Today, I want to welcome Matthew Davis. He is an attorney, he's a heavy metal guitarist, and he's an entrepreneur. And when I say entrepreneur, he has led his law firm, the Davis Business Law, through over 1,000% growth in over 8 years. And he now teaches business owners how to deal with their vulnerabilities so they can capitalize on their opportunities through his firm's proprietary, strong, protected business system. Matthew lives in Enid, Oklahoma, where his family has lived for 6 generations. And so I've been looking forward to this talk. If you're a business owner, you may not like hiring attorneys, but you need to. And I think this is an important episode to listen to because I think you're going to walk away with some really good tips about how to engage attorneys and why that's important. So, Matthew, welcome.
Hey, thanks. And yeah, I tell all my Texas friends, Enid's like living in Abilene. So everybody's like, why do you still live there? I said, I like my 3-minute commute. So we've got offices from Kansas City down to Austin and looking to expand later this year, probably to San Antonio. So,
Oh, that's cool. And so obviously there's a lot of areas of law. How would you define your area of law?
we do small business law, and once we settle into a market, we'll pick up some bigger clients. And we are a soup to nuts small business law firm. We'll do the paper, the transactions and litigation if they get into it. We try and keep our people out of that and try and keep that under control. Sometimes you got to go rumble, right? And I describe us as the family doctor of business law, which, I'm in a deal right now for a pretty big client that we just put a deal last year on the front page of the Wall Street Journal business section. And I don't do the securities on that. I'm like, here, I've got a friend in Oklahoma City that handles that. So, but I'm the general counsel of the company. That's what we do. And we get in, we love helping small businesses grow and prosper. And we just try and give them good advice. One of our taglines is smart business decisions, because you need help in the law.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go there, let me back up a little bit. There's you're a heavy metal guitarist.
Yeah, I was a long-haired kid, right? And a matter of fact, here, just since you're so lucky today, look, I have a Gibson Flying V right here. And
Wow.
this is one of my favorites. And yeah, we started a new band called Geriatric Steel. And well, and it's all my son goes, we were playing at a firm retreat, and my son goes, why don't you start writing songs for middle age and beyond, right? And I'm like, wow, these all just write themselves, like Get Off My Lawn and Left on the Lights, and they just write themselves. And it's the ultimate rebellion of rebelling against age. And we did a demo last year and lost our bass player, so we're looking for a new bass player. But I've been a little preoccupied with this little law shop for the last couple months, but going to play some this summer, I hope.
Yeah. So who is your favorite heavy metal band?
Ooh, wow. It's got to be Maiden. I mean, love
Wow.
Maiden. How do you not? So,
Old school.
yeah, well, they're still putting out albums 50 years later. And I like that old stuff. Gosh, who have I been listening to? Was listening to Judas Priest last week and found a new band called Vane that just put out an album in 1990. Really obscure band. And we may go see Priest in Dallas. They're playing October in Dallas. And I think my buddies and I are going to go see them.
Yeah. Well, I'm a marketer, and so I look at things, I observe the world through a marketer's eye, and there's a billboard that you'll pass on your way to the airport when you're returning to the airport by an attorney who also is a guitarist. You know
Oh,
whom?
I haven't
And,
seen it.
oh, you haven't seen it?
No, Yeah, I was just driving to Austin. I usually try to drive in at night because of your guys' traffic.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't know where all of his billboards are. So he's a personal injury attorney. And you see all these personal injury attorneys, their billboards, they have their arms crossed and they have their head cocked and they look angry, and their message is something like, we fight harder for you, or we're going to make a ton of money, and something like that. And as you're driving out to the airport, you'll pass a billboard, and across the top it will say injured question mark, and you'll see this dude with dreadlocks, and it says David Comey, the attorney that rocks.
Well, there you go.
And I love it because I think he gets some of the best bang for the buck for his marketing dollars, because what he's decided to do is to stand out. You have all these personal injury attorneys and they all have the same message. And here's this guy, and like you, he's a musician, and he just decided to embrace that part of the brand. And it turns out he went to University of Florida on a tennis scholarship. And from what I understand, Florida is a big tennis program. So he's not exactly the dreadlock type of dude, but I think that's one of one of the challenges that attorneys have is how to stand out and how to differentiate themselves from all the other attorneys that do basically the same thing they do.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I look at that from two aspects, okay? I, we, we run Scaling Up by Vern Harnish's book, and we boil down my spot on the function accountability chart is I'm in charge of growth. So that means two things. It means growth of external clients and growth in internal clients, i.e. employees.
Mhm.
And we are very aggressive in how we market to internal customers with our recruiting. Our ad just looks completely insane in the legal recruiting world. Most ads say, would you like to wear a gray suit and be a douchebag to humanity and terrorize everybody else, right? That's what they say. And ours says, hey, would you actually like to help people? Would you like to have work-life balance? And we sell work-life balance to the attorneys because and there's lots of people that are working billing 2,000 hours a year or more. And our billing quota for our attorneys is 1,380, and which is a hell of a lot less. You can actually have a life on that. And our ad literally says, we don't hire any EORs. And when our people see that, our people, our tribe, they snap and they're like, that's where I want to work.
What's Eeyore? What's that? What's that?
Eeyore, like from, Kanga and Roo and Tigger, and it's from Christopher, or what is it? Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And they get it, they see it, they're like, oh yeah, that's where I want to work.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I unfortunately went through a divorce 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And my attorney was telling me something about a very well-known attorney here in town. He said, when she reaches the Golden Gates and meets with St. Peter, he's going to look in his ledger and he's going to say, I don't know how you did this, but you managed to bill more hours than you lived.
Yeah, truth. I've seen it.
Yeah. Um, so no, I would imagine that does have to be very attractive in terms of, because the pressure in the legal field just seems intense. I mean, it's intense. I came out of the field where there was, very high pressure. Marketing still very high pressure. But the one thing that I notice is there are few professions that I can think of where people credentialed in that profession are working in a different profession. I see that in the legal field. I see people with law degrees abundantly doing something other than law. What do you think's behind that?
You may get a kick out of our brand promise. This is instructive. Our brand promise to our staff is get to work with good-natured attorneys free from cluster B personality issues. Okay. And the cluster B personality issues are narcissism, sociopathy, Machiavellian traits. And I'm kind of an amateur psychologist in this. The law attracts lots of people with those traits because it's a status job. Oh, I'm a lawyer, right? Or even if you're not practicing, you get to say I'm a lawyer. And it it attracts them. And by the way, then they go to the firms, and a lot of the big firms are really run by people with those traits. And frankly, it makes my job marketing to attorneys to come to work for us that much easier. But, you know, and I was having lunch or coffee rather with a buddy of mine who ran the DA's office here for years. It's a big district. And we were talking about this, and he's starting his own firm probably here in a year or two. And I was like, and we just walked through it and we were talking about people and going, yeah, okay, yes, that's it. It's a profession that attracts lots of people that are very difficult to deal with because it enhances their status and self-worth. And it also gives them a license, if they are that way, to go terrorize humanity, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Now, one of the things you told me in the green room was you said you were surprised by Austin. You said it's very hard to find good attorneys in Austin. And you said Austin's supposed to be this digital city, but you're not impressed. What did you mean by that?
Um, well, we're aggressive digital marketers, and when we break into a market, we will aggressively use Google ads and to a lesser extent Bing ads, much lesser extent. And when we started to go down there, one of our agencies was like, "Oh, Austin's gonna, it's perceived as a very digital, technologically savvy place." And I said, "Yeah, but I know how to use Google Analytics reasonably well." I said, "Go look at it. The competition's not even there." And they called me back. They go, "Oh, you're right." And we see tougher competition in, say, Tulsa, probably probably not Wichita, but certainly Kansas City, which is similar sized market to Austin. And I think the deal is Austin's growing so fast that the attorneys, it's the business is kind of like a bird's nest on the ground for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they have not the aggressive attorney marketing in our space has not really blossomed in Austin. And I don't know that it's a function of lack of capabilities. I think it's probably a function of lack of needs, but it was really an open door for us. And Austin has been a fast growing market for us because of it.
Wow. Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about businesses. And let me just give, kind of my perspective. And I would imagine that, a lot of businesses, they know they need lawyers. They're not excited to hire them. My joke, I always say lawyers are pack animals. They never travel alone. They always come in a group and they all have their meters running. And so I think a lot of businesses, they know they need attorneys, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. And how would you advise businesses to engage law firms?
Hey, by the way, lawyers are pack animals, and I look at it from a different perspective. And from our perspective, they are pack animals in that I've had friends here recently that, law firm owners like me that kind of stepped out of running their firm. I'm going to get to your question. And it's, and their firms really struggled. I'm like, gosh, guys, I stay in here as the alpha wolf and stay involved in cases because it just builds the team camaraderie. Here's what you look for, okay? Have you ever read Story Brand by Donald Miller?
Yep.
Okay. You look for an attorney that knows their role as your guide. And because the principle behind Story Brand is everybody's the hero in their own story, and they come to you with a problem and they need to get to a new place. And your job is to help them get to a better place. Help them is the key phrase. Okay. And we teach this to our attorneys. We teach them the Story Brand technique. And if you are engaging a new attorney and they don't get that you're the hero, it's time to run.
Hmm. How would I know that? What would I look for that would tell me that they don't think I'm the hero?
Are they talking about your problems, or are they talking about what a badass they are all the time? You know, there's a stage in StoryBrand, the third stage, where you talk about empathy and authority. And that's after you've listened to the problem, after you've sized it up and talked about the three internal, external, and philosophical problem. And then, in the process of onboarding or selling a client, I mean, it is selling. Come on, let's get real about it. Let's not play any jokes. You come to empathy and authority. Very simple. Hey, I understand your problem. We've been through this before. This is in our wheelhouse. Bang. Okay. If it's that short and that simple and that sweet and done in 20 seconds, 30 seconds or less, you've probably got somebody whose heart in the right place. If you get a freaking resume at that point and a whole bunch of bragging, you've got a problem on your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember I used to be president of my HOA, and not by my decision. Unfortunately, it was that I lost the popular vote. We decided to sue a utility that was servicing our neighborhood. And so, but it was my job as president to go carry that out. And I had to go find an attorney. And I found one that was like, hey, we're ready to take the fight to him and blah, 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 blah. And I just listened to that. And I think that there was another attorney in the room that I had originally gone to. And I was hoping that he would help us out. And he was like, well, I may be a little bit busy. And there's a chance he was testing me to see what I was looking for. And I contacted him privately and I said, I'm not looking for a fight. I'm looking for a resolution.
Yeah.
And I said, this guy's going to take me into a fight. That's not what I want.
Yeah, and the fights are expensive. They are expensive, and we have a process where if a fight ramps up, okay, let's say a case comes in, ramps up into litigation, and we'll stop and do a high level review with the leadership team, the COO and I, and we go, where's the win here? Where is the reasonable win for the client? And by the way, we also ask, where's the win for us? Because sometimes if you have a client that has completely unreasonable expectations, that's going to be damaging to us at the end of the day, because we're not just looking for the one and done clients. We're looking to build relationships with people that go on for years and years and years. And by the way, those are also end up being bad reviews and just bad blood. So yeah, I mean, litigation is expensive, and any big business leader will tell you to avoid it as much as you can. And
Yeah.
that's smart.
So, oh, it's funny. I remember. So I used to be in the semiconductor business for mobile phones, and there was a company in Birmingham, England, run by what was his name? I forgot his name. He was a complete nut job, but he was the only guy. He had the only company. It was called Sendo, the only company in the UK that was making mobile phones at the time. And he got to a point of desperation and he decided to sue Microsoft. He claimed Microsoft had been leaking some of their IP to a Taiwanese company. And he went off and sued Microsoft. I was like, holy cow, they have so many attorneys. They can win the fight. That just seems like that just seemed
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, and they'll just wear you out. And yes, absolutely. Good idea to avoid. That's quite the fight to pick. So
Yeah. Well, and that was you could argue they were already on the downslope, but that pretty much did them in. They sold them they sold their company to Motorola, who was also on the downside. But yeah.
yeah, and that Motorola's, I understand they're pretty significantly repositioned. I mean, they're not even making phones anymore, right?
Oh, they've been out of that for a while. They
Yeah,
sold that. They sold it originally to Google, and then Google sold it to Lenovo, which is a Chinese company.
yeah,
And so if you see a Motorola phone, it's It's made by the owner of that is Lenovo, a Chinese company.
Okay, yeah.
So, well, let me ask this. So for businesses, it's I think one of the challenges with hiring attorneys is it seems like there's no upper limit of how much money you can spend with attorneys.
Mhm.
And obviously there's some basic things that we should be doing in running our businesses to make sure we're protecting ourselves, we're being smart, we're being wise. But we know that, at least this is my perception, is I can spend as much money as I want with attorneys and they'll keep saying yes, write us another check, we'll go do this. What are the basic things I should do? So two questions. One, as a business owner, what should be my basic legal strategy? And two, how do I cover myself without, how do I protect myself from spending too much on legal fees?
This is a huge differentiator for us, by the way. Yeah, when I went out and started a law firm, I'm like, let's figure out what's wrong with our industry, which is the question you just asked, right? That's
Mhm.
one of the primary fears. I break it down into two things. Number one, it's lots of law firms, probably most, give their clients what I call the mushroom treatment. They feed them BS and they keep them in the dark, right? And number two, people are also nervous about what I call the blank check syndrome, which is, did I just hand over my checkbook to these people? And you're just going, oh, am I going to get a bill for what 30 days down the road? Okay, here's how we do it. Trisha and Becky are right up here, these two offices here. They're running invoices today. 90% of our our money will come off of prepaid invoices because every week our attorneys give give a case review sheet to case finance. Case finance sends out retainer requests to our clients. This sounds really boring and it is kind of tedious, but it makes a huge difference because what we're doing with our retainer requests that'll start going out tomorrow is we're saying to our clients, look, here's what your attorney says is coming down the pike. Here's how much we think we need in the reasonably foreseeable future to accomplish these tasks. And what that does is gives the client the ability to say, yes, sure, let's go after it. Two, no, I don't want to do this. Or three, hey, I need to talk to my attorney. Let's get on the phone. And it's super empowering to our clients. Our net promoter scores have gone through the roof since we've started doing it and really implemented it well over the last couple, 3 years. And it's to Trisha's credit on that. And our clients are happy. We're giving them advice. We know that legal bills can become a problem in their business. And part of our job, part of our responsibility to them is to communicate well with them. So that has been a super effective strategy to deal with the issues that you just addressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, a part of that is, I think one of the jobs of attorneys is to protect us and manage us from risk. And I mean, if we think about raising kids, a parent's job is to protect the kids from risk, but it can become an extreme, and it can be kind of an all-encompassing affair. And the reality is life has risks. Living life is packed full of risks. And the question that I try to answer is, what's an acceptable amount of risk to cover? Where have I drawn, where do I draw the line to say, okay, we're covered for what we would think are normal risks. There may be kind of a black swan event that will impact us, but we're not going to spend to cover black swans. We're going to spend up to a certain level. How would you respond to that?
Absolutely true. That's what we deal with in our strong protected business program. Ultimately, there's a level where one part of the program is you brainstorm and then you size up how serious the risk is and how likely it is. Like black swan event. Yeah, I mean, we were talking my COO, our COO, I should say, died at 57 this year out of the blue of a heart attack. Yeah, he was in good health. Those things happen, and you can't really prepare for that. But we have some good resources on our website in the resources tab that talk about how to do this. By the way, somebody who writes really well about this. Are you acquainted with Keith Cunningham?
I'm not.
Yeah, he's from Austin. He wrote The Road Less Stupid.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, runs a mastermind group, and I can't remember exactly which chapter it is in there. He speaks to it very well. And Andy Grove, big in your world, he said, it's the paranoid that survive.
Yeah. And just for context for those listening, Andy Grove was the CEO of Intel during its meteoric rise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And, you have to learn how to be what I call productively paranoid.
Yeah.
And the one of the core lessons I teach is to constantly be brainstorming and also do it with your group. We do it every quarter when we do strategic planning. But if you can just get 3 quick lessons, you ask yourself, what are the catastrophes? What are the black swan events? Pick the word you want. What are the disasters that can happen? That's one. Number 2, where are we ignorant? What skill sets do we need? What's holding us back? And the answer to that is education. And we're constantly asking that. We've got a point on our leadership meeting agenda today about, recruiting. Let's revisit our recruiting strategies. We just hired 4 lawyers. I'm like, okay, let's think what we can do better. So number 2 is think about what you're ignorant about and be honest what you're ignorant about and what you need to know. And then 3, brainstorm where you're inept, meaning where you're slacking off. Last week, I've been pretty distracted because we've been hiring, and I took a look under the hood at our marketing metrics, and we were doing fantastic in January as far as we measured leads per day, qualified leads per day. And I noticed we dropped back down to last October. And I blew my top a little bit. I'm pretty nice when I get mad. And I fired off to actually, this was our SEM company. I'm like, guys, I know what the hell's going on here. You think you're lead guitar players and I need some rhythm and bass. And, you've gone to broad match search, you've let the caps go up, and I'm paying a whole lot of money for stupid leads, and you're getting sloppy on negative keywords. Okay. That's on us. It's my responsibility. We were being slackers about that because I was distracted. Learn to ask yourself those questions about your business. And that's how you can be productively paranoid, because that's where you get sucker punched all the time.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's probably a really good note to end on, because I just think that's so wise. And it's about, not measuring everything, but measuring the important things and keeping track of that. Matthew, this has been such an interesting conversation. How could people reach you?
DavisBusinessLaw.com is our website. mdavis@davisbusinesslaw is my website, or my email. That's what you call it. And happy to answer any questions. We're a growth law firm and we take care of our peeps.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that on Leaders and Legacies.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it.